All right, everybody, welcome to today's episode where we're talking about the two sides or the two ways you could use marketing in your business. Well, there's more ways, but the types of ways, the categories where private podcasting can actually fit in your business. And put simply, marketing and fulfillment. So Nora, why don't we dive into the differences between marketing and fulfillment and how to think of that?
Those are really the two main ways that all of our users are using it. It usually falls in either the bucket of trying to get more leads and sales, so on the marketing side of things, more the front end of your business. We have a lot of our users are also using it on the fulfillment side, which is delivering what someone bought or something like that. So diving into the marketing side of things, I've been so happy with seeing how much just adding audio can increase conversions. And we knew when we were running experiments, even with Hello Audio and with our own lead magnets and turning, whether you're doing like Attract with Audio, which is granted a little bit of a course or kind of a lead into what we're mainly selling here, or even just using an ebook or your typical PDF, even if you were going to opt in for a PDF and you're like, there's this 200-page PDF. And everyone's like, no, thanks. I don't have time for that. And I don't need to assign myself more homework to do during the week. But if someone said, here's a 10 episode, 30-minute private podcast that you can just pop in and listen to at your convenience, yeah, I'm a lot more likely to opt in for that lead magnet than I would be this long PDF. So, and I'm a lot more likely to consume it. As someone who might be interested in purchasing as a potential prospect, I'm a lot more likely to trust myself to consume that lead magnet. So we're looking at lead magnets, even your marketing content. So if you think about if you're doing a marketing campaign, you're trying to sell whatever it is, your flagship program, whatever you're trying to sell, maybe you're doing a webinar or a video series or, all of the things that you traditionally think of when you think of a launch, right? A product launch or a marketing campaign launch, all of that content can be put into a private podcast. And time after time, when we see our users do this, even with challenges, I'll throw challenges in here, workshops in here in this bucket, when you're using those types of things for your marketing. And what happens is you do it live, you schedule it live and people can't show up. And then you send out that replay and everyone's like, oh, it's an hour Zoom call. Who wants that? No one wants that. But if you were like, hey, all the content, if you missed anything, don't worry, you can catch up right here really easy. It's like, oh, okay, they're a lot more likely to consume that. When you're architecting marketing campaign content, it's designed to be consumed. The whole point of marketing content is to take someone from where they started to the point where they're the most likely to invest and buy in that, whatever your product is. And if they don't consume the content, they don't make the shift. We're not able to create awareness. We're not able to educate. We're not able to create those emotions we want to create to have them most likely to buy. We're not shifting false beliefs, because we all know that there's false beliefs out there, or just beliefs that they need to have, and like your product's going to work for them, like you care about them, all of those beliefs. That's what the marketing content is designed to address. And when you're putting that marketing content into a private podcast, all of a sudden now we're seeing it time and time again with our users that are podcasting webinars, that are podcasting challenge content. Their engagement, their consumption goes up. And as a result of that consumption going up, their conversions are going up as well. So if that's something that, looking at, we'll talk a little bit about how, what we would recommend starting with here in a little bit. But if you're at all in your business trying to attract leads or convert more sales, adding a private podcast can help you get there faster.
Yeah, I like to add to with the marketing piece is it's innovative because it's different. And so like you touched on it with the ebook piece, but it's just like, oh, this is a cool way of doing that, right? And that creates intrigue, even just to be like, oh, what is she talking about? And that won't last forever, but at least right now, it's still a very innovative and thoughtful way of presenting information that I think people are intrigued by, and that has value, right? That's a huge part of it. And the marketing piece too, I always think too, like the more fun we can have with it, the easier we can make it feel. Like back to the episode where we're talking about the benefits is like, how much easier does it sound to record some stuff instead of do live trainings on Facebook, which was so, 2020 or whatever, 2019.
Someone look pretty if that's not your skill set. Yeah.
Correct. So there is something really cool about being able to get it out early, test it, tweak it, and just play with it. And that is a benefit in the marketing side. If you can be creative and like have fun while doing it, that always translates. Like people want to sign up for that stuff, not something that feels stuffy, like you were forced to do it or like you're supposed to do it. So I think that's a layer, of it too, that this is powerful for. And that engagement piece, it creates engaged leads because of all the reasons we talk about in a previous episode where, what audio does for you. So that's huge. Okay, so what about fulfillment? So this is an interesting, now they're a sale. The transaction has happened, but now you have the person who expects a result or who has signed up for something and has every intention of getting an A+ in your course, right? And so taking care of those people is the next step of your business because they are those future testimonials, those future results, those future referrals that you have. And this is a really important part. It's not just about the marketing. And I've heard people talk about how some people are good at one or the other. And I think that's true. And where you need support, maybe you hire the marketing team or you need some operations and some systems and some back end like delivery help. But from a business perspective, Hello Audio can totally have some advantages to using private podcasts in this side. And so when we think of fulfillment, people listening are not just course creators, but they're often coaches and consultants. And so even that one-on-one work, it matters here from a private podcast perspective. So fulfillment, delivering that content, delivering the offer. And if the offer is a course, great. Podcast version of the course. If the offer is a membership, great. There's a community piece, but there's usually content tied to that. So it's great there. One-on-one coaching. I think people don't realize how valuable it can be here. You brought it up, who wants to watch the replay of a Zoom call? No one. And yeah, I've had some pretty powerful coaches in my day where I'm like, oh yeah, that was good. I'm going to rewatch. Yeah, they send me the drive link and it just sits there. The idea that I could re-listen to something where, especially with one-on-one work, there's something where you're kind of tuned in, but also not because you're like thinking about what you're being coached. I don't know. There's a lot, right? You go back and listen, you can get some more value out of it. And so one-on-one work is good. And then we get into like team stuff, which is important to fulfillment from a perspective of the functioning of your team. So maybe that's a little more operational. But even like onboarding, not just team members, but onboarding one-on-one clients. Emily Hurst, who runs ad agency, I think when you do really complicated stuff, especially like ads, they're hiring you because they don't know how to do it, but then they also don't know how to do it. So when things aren't working, they need an explanation, but they don't have time to take a course on like ads, right? And so that's a great example because I think ads is a particularly hairy client experience. And so she was able to create a private podcast that someone can listen to, like, here's how you're going to be handed off to this person. And then it goes to this and explains the process, right, of this agency that she runs. And I think there's something really powerful about that from a client perspective where you're like, oh, okay, cool. Versus here's a login, go watch a video, welcome to the team. That sounds horrible. Yeah. And most people aren't going to do that. Not happening. I think onboarding is really cool. So from delivering that valuable content, this reinforces learning, but there's an emotional side to it too. I think that intimacy piece, the like, oh, they got me, they know how I think, or like they care about my results. And so there's that empathetic, like emotional aspect of it. I think that's really powerful on the fulfillment side. And then of course, as we keep saying, it increases consumption. So not only is increasing consumption important in marketing, but it's also clearly important in fulfillment, especially when you're trying to get a transformation for that person. And this just obviously leads to happy customers, client satisfaction, and retention potentially for memberships. Memberships specifically, when you think about all that content, new content gets added every month. What is the biggest objection? I never got to the stuff. Yeah. And so the idea that you can make it more accessible by being able to listen to it is huge.
I think the other thing, it's circular. When your clients get results, right? It's success sells. So you want to bolster your marketing with more testimonials and more case studies. You need people to get results.
Which could be a private podcast.
It is, by the way. So if you want to listen to our success story podcast, we'll definitely make sure that the link to that is in the show notes. But it is very important. And so the more you can enable people to have success, the more your marketing will attract more people. And so it is very important, and it dovetails with that.
So what you're saying is Hello Audio belongs in all
It
parts
is.
of the
It
business,
definitely does,
right?
for sure. I know we're throwing a lot of ideas at you, and I understand it's a lot. And there's going to be a
Yeah,
lot. It's only going to get
it's only
worse
going to get
because
worse.
more and more ways, there's more and more ways to do. And we're finding and we're innovating new ways, and our users are innovating new ways. So if you're sitting here and you're kind of like, I'm really overwhelmed, this sounds cool, I'd like to give it a shot, but I don't know where to start. So let's talk a little bit about what, some ideas on the marketing side and the fulfillment side and what we would recommend. So I guess on the marketing side, we would always say, start with what you already have. What is the lead magnet that is working for you today? I would add an audio component to it. So what that might be, maybe you want to, it's training. Like we've had users that have had training videos that were great and they were very high quality training videos, but they just weren't getting consumed. She took those videos, turned them into a private podcast and just started using the private podcast as a lead magnet. All of a sudden she went viral and it took off, right? She ended up increasing her leads by, I don't even know what it was, like 980 some percent, right? It's just crazy, lots
Sounds
of
like a
leads.
lot. Yeah.
But I think that start with what you have. If you have a PDF, think about how you could maybe supplement it with audio. So if you have a worksheet, maybe you could record yourself walking through it and maybe add some stories and talk about some nuances or some ways that you can help them think about it or fill it out. So that's what we would recommend on the marketing side. And similar with fulfillment.
Yeah, similar with fulfillment. And I would, if I'm sitting here and I've never created a private podcast before, I would think that the easiest thing that they could do is to drag and drop some course
Absolutely.
video and just make it happen. Like easiest. It might be the easiest for you to do that of a lead magnet, and it might just be the
Yes.
type of lead magnet you have. So, what makes just repurposing videos that already exist, I mean, that literally is the easiest thing. So starting with your course or like any sort of delivery piece where the content already literally exists in video, why not just offer the supplement version? We'll dive deep into like best practices around that and stuff, but the idea that a course as a podcast, I think, is huge. And so, yeah, I think looking at your Google Drive, if there's a training in there that you never got to release, start with something that kind of already exists. I think Nora's making a really good point. It should probably be something works. That's going to give you the best ROI. But if there's that idea that you've been like noodling, it never got slated in your calendar to bust it out, or the outline is sitting somewhere in your Google Drive, what if you position it as a private podcast? Like, what would that help you create this thing? And so, I think thinking about the thing that never got released, as long as it's somewhat developed, is going to be pretty easy. Or the content that already exists, you just have to drag and drop it. Like those are probably your best bets for sure.
I know we talked a little bit about, well, we talk a lot about how easy it is, but really when you've got over 70% of our users create that first feed in less than 24 hours. And most of the time, the other percent comes back and they're like, man, I wish I would have believed you.
I should have just done it.
Easy. But and I get it. Like technology has the stigma for being like, oh, it's a new tool. I got to sit down. I got to figure it out. We've been there. That's why we've designed it.
We're doing it with Riverside. Our first recordings on this.
What are the roles? It's the same thing. And because we've lived it as business owners and because we've lived it as creators, we've designed this tool to be easy to use. That was really important. If that's you, if you're thinking, I don't have time, you could literally get your first feed up in less than an hour with existing content. And it can be that easy. So if that's something you're thinking about doing, don't worry. We've got plenty of episodes planned to give you more ideas, even more ways that people are using it.
Deeper looks at those ideas. I think a lot of this early stuff is like, we're just trying to get stuff off the plate so we're all on the same page. And then we're going to get into the nuances of a webinar or a masterclass or a lead magnet. And we'll share, what we've learned watching our users do it, what we've learned experimenting ourselves, all those things. We gave you a lot today, but hopefully now you have an understanding of how it can fit in your business and the buckets, if you will, of where it can fit in your business. And hopefully we've inspired you to take your first step, dragging and dropping some content and making a private podcast. Cool, you guys. Thanks for hanging out, and we will see you in the next episode. And there you have it, audio heads. Another episode of Launch Your Private Podcast is in the books. I hope you're leaving today feeling even more ready to amplify your voice and connect with your audience in meaningful ways. The adventure continues in our next episode with even more insights, strategies, and inspiration to help you along your own private podcasting journey. Of course, make sure to check out helloaudio.fm to start your own private podcast. And remember, you've got amazing content that needs to be heard, so let's turn the volume up. Until next time.